There's a place in Salt Lake City surrounded by larger-than-life sculptures, providing refuge from the hustle and bustle of the surrounding area. The Gilgal Sculpture Garden dates to 1945 and was sculpted by the stonemason Thomas Child. The Sculpture Garden features 12 stone sculptures and over 70 engraved stones. The Friends of Gilgal is the group in charge of preserving the garden, and they say the word Gilgal is a biblical term, which refers to a circle of sacred stones retrieved from the Jordan River to memorialize a miraculous crossing. Child was a bishop with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for over 19 years and dedicated his sculpture garden in the same fashion to his beliefs. According to Judy Short, the president of the Friends of Gilgal, all the pieces were sculpted on-site in his workshop, but the stones, some of which weighing 62 tons, came from different parts of the state.
He'd been plotting for years to build this park. All the rocks in the sculptures that you see, he found in Utah. So he'd been looking for a long time for certain rocks for this or that.
Short also says every Sunday Child would invite the neighbors and friends to tour the garden and explain the meaning behind each piece. While many of the sculptures are related to his faith, there are other sources of inspiration that can be found around the garden. According to the Friends of Gilgal, Child wanted those who visited his garden to think deeply about his work, saying, quote, "You don't have to agree with me. You may think I'm a nut, but I hope I have aroused your thinking and curiosity."
So it's not just Mormon sayings on here. It's things just out of the dictionary or things he thought about.
Child also had help accomplishing his more unique and recognizable pieces, like the Sphinx, by using a unique process.
He used a polyacetylene torch. So he was working with rock, but he didn't know how to be a sculptor. So he hired the best sculptor in town and taught him how to use the acetylene torch. So that's why Joseph Smith has a smooth face.
Gilgal has received the special distinction of being listed as a visionary art environment, the only one in the state and one of the few in the country. According to the Friends of Gilgal, a visionary art environment expresses a personal or religious conviction and is made with found materials by a person who is not a formally trained artist.
It's one of maybe a dozen pieces like this in the country, or maybe even the whole world. It's something so different. When you come here, you will never see anything like it ever again. And we want to keep it that way.
There are some parts of the sculpture garden that are unfinished, and Short says they will not be completed. Ultimately, they are there to preserve the work Child was able to complete before his death in 1963. After his passing, his wife Bertha Child sold the property because the upkeep was too much for her as she got older. Their neighbors bought the property, and as time moved on, Gilgal stayed put, slowly sinking into the surrounding shrubbery.
Basically, nothing happened, except for the weeds grew and the trees cast seeds, and the whole thing became kind of overgrown. And it was a secret garden because it was in somebody's backyard. There was no official gate to it.
Gilgal almost never made it out of the overgrowth, and in 1998, the community had to rally around their hidden gem to save it.
Well, a developer approached the Fetzers and wanted to buy the land for apartments. And the neighborhood said, "No, you're not doing that. This place is way too special." So the neighborhood started raising money, and they ended up raising about $650,000, which back in 1998 was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. So the LDS Church, the Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and people like you and I contributed money to save this garden.
In response, the Friends of Gilgal was formed in 1997. They helped preserve the garden by maintaining the flower gardens, trimming branches, and finding professionals to restore the stonework as needed. It took some time before the park was open to the public in October 2000. They designed a fence to deter vandals and would allow trucks to deliver materials that would help restore Child's work. The Friends of Gilgal are still maintaining the park, but Short says restoring and maintaining the stones can be time-consuming and costly.
Well, it took 3 years to find the rock that was approximately the same as the rock that's there. And you can see just looking at it, it's still not quite the right color.
Short is also in charge of the Master Gardener program, which helps maintain the flower beds in the garden. She says there are opportunities for people to help if interested. The Friends of Gilgal are determined to keep the gates open, They have been working on a conservation easement with the city to preserve Child's legacy and Salt Lake City's hidden gem for generations to come.
What that would do is it would mean that the garden has to stay the way it is. All the statues and everything would have to remain in their historic place, their historic condition. So Salt Lake City's the owner now. If they decided to sell it, whoever buys it would still have to keep it as Gilgal Garden. They couldn't put houses here.
Short says picking up the garden and moving it to a new location isn't possible. She believes that the garden has already carved out a place for itself in the community and is right where it belongs.
We need to preserve the history. We need to preserve the character of the city. We don't want everything to be a 3/5 apartment building like they have on 400 South, where everything looks the same. We still want this to be a place, and this is about placemaking.